Alright, welcome back, guys. No need to beat around the bush. Let's just get started with some cards. First card that we have is High Priest Amet, the Priest Legendary Minion. He's a 4-mana, 2/7, with the ability, whenever you summon a minion, set its health equal to this minion's. Now, I just had to make sure that that was the correct text, because there's a lot of bad translations when this originally came out. Anyway, so what is this card? What does it do for us? It does a lot of weird things. It lets us set health of minions that we would never be able to set health on before without like buff spells. So you can just easily set any minion to 7. Or if we use the buff spells that priest has access to, like Divine Spirit, we can easily increase the amount that we're giving to these minions. So you could have like a wall priest deck with just a bunch of taunts and then set all of your taunts to like 28 health or something dumb. But one of the common ones that's floating around right now is you can combo this with Divine Spirits and then play some Stone Tusk Boars to set them to 28 and then play Topsy Turvy or Inner Fire to give them that health as attack. And you can just do a ton of face damage. And I'm sure that's not the only way that a combo will ever exist with this card. It's just the first easy one. Is this card any good by itself? It has a lot of potential, but it's really wonky. And it doesn't like... It feels like it would fit more into trying to make some kind of weird combo work than it would to fit in its own deck. Like, even in a Wall Priest deck, you'd need to do some kind of Divine Spirit shenanigans, and that requires like more than just this card by itself. In some kind of mid-range priest, maybe it could work by just increasing the health of your minions, but in the past that generally hasn't ever really been a deck. So I'm gonna say probably not on this card being like meta, but we'll see. If anything, I think we'll see that boar deck, but it's probably too many cards to actually work. And now for a card that is not questionably good or bad. Generous Mummy. 3-mana, 5/4 minion with Reborn, and your opponent's cards cost 1 less. I don't think I need to really say that making your opponent's cards costing 1 less is not a valid payoff for the stat boost and the Reborn. In fact, the Reborn almost makes it worse because you'd rather have this around for less time. You don't want your opponent to have cheaper cards. If you're playing a tempo game, you're losing the tempo game from playing this. You just don't. Don't. And now for a card with some of the best card art of this entire set and name. Grand Mummy. 2-mana, 1/2 minion for priest with Reborn. Death Rattle, give your random friendly minions +1/+1. That's just really good. That's solid. We've seen other cards with the +1/+1 stat line. It's quality. I don't think it's like super powerful, but it's good. You can combo with this with the priest quest because it will summon a Death Rattle minion off of itself, so you can get 2 Death Rattle minions for 1 off of this 1 minion. And with other cards that will like resummon Death Rattles, like was it Twilight's Call, will get you another 2 from just one of these. So it's really good. It's actually really interesting to think about is if you could get a bunch of these out with Twilight's Call and just get like a board flood and have like a bunch of these die and then just have stats spread around the board. That seems nifty and neat. Probably not good, but I like the thought of it. Anyway, this card's just probably solid. Next up, we have a possibly good, like reasonably strong Reborn minion, Colossus of the Moon. Jesus, that's a name. 10 mana, 10/10 Divine Shield Reborn. It's a Reborn minion that just does not die. Is that good? It might be. It doesn't impact the board immediately. That's an important thing to think of. Maybe it could exist in some big decks. Probably not Big Priest. Big Priest is already too tight of a deck to just include like okay-ish cards that would kind of fit in the deck, but maybe other classes that have big decks would want to run this. Like maybe a big rogue would run this, or maybe even a big paladin. I don't know. On top of the fact, or ignoring the fact that it doesn't impact the board immediately, it is a large minion that does not want to die, and even though it doesn't do anything, the thing it does is it has a large amount of attack that you can throw at your opponent's face, which means they need to put effort into getting rid of it, which might not be hard. Decks have hard removal, but not everybody has hard removal, and if they don't have hard removal, you gotta send a lot into this. This is a big card, a bigly card that is going to make us see how good Reborn is as a mechanic. Now we are on to the Warrior Plague. Plague of Wrath. 5 mana, destroy all damaged minions. Oh my gosh. This is a card. It is King Mosh, but you don't have to be hindered by the fact that King Mosh costs 9 mana and is incredibly hard to synergize with any form of Whirlwind effect. This is the same cost as Brawl, and if you're playing a deck that has Whirlwinds in it already, like you're just using Whirlwinds for the purpose of the deck, which happens a lot of controlled decks in Warrior, in Wild, then you could probably easily get this off. You can, on turn 5, if you have a Blood Razor or a Death Spite already prepped, you could break your weapon and then play this, and then you'll kill everything on turn 5. So this is, like, it's possibly playable as early as 5 if the scenario is set up right. I'm going to go ahead and say, though, I do still think Brawl is, in fact, a better board clear still. You're still probably going to run Brawl instead of this. The only advantage this has is in cases where your opponent has a lot of large minions, Big Priest, and you need to get rid of all of them. Because with Brawl, one thing is left behind, and there's a good chance that that's going to be a big thing. Like, I don't know, they leave a Yashiraj behind that'll punch you in the face for 10. If you can set it up with the right deck, this, in some cases, is better than Brawl, but in most cases, Brawl's probably just better. Well, I'm not going to spend too much time on this card, but I'm going to go over it anyway. 4 mana, 6/5, Sunstruck Henchman. At the start of your turn, this has a 50% chance to fall asleep. It's an Ogre card. Ogre cards with a 50% chance, they're like overstated minions with an RNG negative side effect. They're usually not good. It's not going to see play. Now we're going on from a easy to review card to a hard to review card. The Warrior Quest, Hack the System. A 1 mana quest, attack 5 times with your hero. Reward Anrafet's Core. Anrafet's Core is a 2 mana hero power that will summon a 4/3 golem, and the hero power will refresh if you attack with your hero. So, what do we think of this card? Well, that's really tough to say. The first deck that people would think of that would have weapons that likes going face is Pirate Warrior. And this hero power is obviously a very aggressive one. It's 2 mana 4/3 that you can play twice in the turn, or maybe even more than twice if you're playing something like Stealth Rays. But you don't want to, if you're playing Pirate Warrior, which is already a fringe on whether or not it's in the meta. If you're playing that, you don't want a 1 mana quest. You don't want to be playing that for 1 mana. Would you play this in like a mid-range warrior deck? Maybe. There's like mid-range rush warrior decks that like to be aggressive but don't just go all in like Pirate Warrior. Do those use weapons? Not always. They sometimes do, but not always. Maybe a weapon-based mid-range deck can exist, and then you can play this to get some good increased value from your hero power, because as we already know, aggressive and tempo warrior decks don't want their armor hero power. They like to get rid of it. That's why they usually run Finley. So maybe it's tough to feel like it's worth it. Like in the dream scenario where you can get 2 of these off every single turn, or you get a bunch from Stealth Rays, it's pretty good. Now we have 2 Druid cards to look at. The first one is Overflow, 7 mana, restore 5 health to all characters, and draw 5 cards. And there's a really important card to think about, because we've seen how good doing 2 things and drawing 5 cards, or more than 2 things and drawing 5 cards, can be. Obviously, Ultimate Infestation is a much better card than this, but this is a card that will draw you 5 cards while also doing more than just drawing 5 cards. It will keep you and your board, if you have a board, alive. This I'd like to say UI is still a better choice if you're running any kind of control druid in Wild that wants to draw cards. You're probably going to play UI over this, and you don't want to do UI and this, because there is obviously like a lot of control decks that want to just draw cards sometimes don't even run 2 UIs, or if they do, they just don't play the second one, because drawing 5 cards is a lot. Obviously, they don't have UI in Standard, which is what they print cards for, which is obviously why this exists. But in the case of us here in Wild, I don't think restoring 5 health to everything compares to the gain armor, deal damage, and summon something that UI does. Then the other druid card we have is Anubisath Defender, a 5 mana 3/5 with Taunt that will cost 0 if you play a spell that costs 5 or more this turn. So it's like the one elemental that we had from Kobolds that I'm drawing a blank on the name of while I'm doing this review, which we've seen work in Druid. In fact, in decks that wanted to do that already, they might just play this instead of that, because this is a taunt. Who knows? Maybe that'll make Taunt Druid a thing again. Probably not. That's just dreaming. Anyway, it's a good card if you're playing cards like UI and maybe even Spreading Plague, but that's kind of excessive, I think, to just play Spreading Plague and then play another Taunt. I think that's a little awkward, a little bit of an overcommitment. But we've seen how much playing something out for free with a UI is good. I will probably just see it again with this, if any decks like that exist. Now we're on to what I think is one of the coolest and most unique cards of the set. Probably the coolest one of this review that we're doing right now is the Warlock Plague, Plague of Flames. 1 mana, destroy all of your minions. And for each one you destroy, randomly destroy one of your opponent's minions. Now this is a cool card. This is like a defile kind of card. This is a card that you need to think about your turn and then do like complicated math for, and then just do some weird 200 IQ play to figure out the best way to clear this or clear your opponent's board. This is a fascinating card. I love its design. I think it'll be great. Honestly, I love it so much. We got a 2-mana Paladin mech, Micro Mummy. It's a 1/2 with Reborn, and at the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1 attack. It's the Master Swordsmith effect, but this one is a mech, and it has Reborn. Does that make Master Swordsmith worth playing by making it a mech with Reborn? Mechs like magnetic, which means they like things sticking around on board, which mech paladins that are aggressive often have magnetic minions. So maybe, I mean, Master Swordsmith was already like a reasonably good ability, but it just wasn't enough. It didn't do enough by itself. So maybe those 2 little inclusions in the right deck will make this a worthy candidate. You could play this in even Paladin, and you can play your hero power turn 1, this turn 2. You could do that with the Master Swordsmith as well, but like I said, this has a little bit more going for it. It's a mech. I think some even Paladin lists run mech lists, which this fits into. I think actually regular, just even Paladin right now is usually mech list. So that goes right in there, honestly. It has a Reborn, which means it's going for its effect for a little bit longer, maybe if it doesn't just die right away. But it's a possibility for a few aggressive Paladin decks. I'm not going to discount this one yet. Next up, we have actually good Lackey generation for Warrior compared to improved morale from last expansion. We saw that just wasn't any good at all. But this one, it has the stats of weapons we've seen in the past that are pretty good. The Unidentified Maul, that's the one. The 3-mana 2/2 weapon. And this one, instead of just doing some random effect like that one, it will add lackeys to your hand every time you attack. So one of the things about lackeys that we've seen, and I've talked about this in a different Saviors of Uldum review, is that the more lackeys you're able to generate, it's often better if you can like just keep doing that and making more and more lackeys. And this has that potential, if you can continue to give this durability, to create more and more lackeys. So if the right warrior deck exists that wants lackeys, I see the same play, honestly. Maybe, probably not, but maybe in Pirate Warrior you have Upgrade, you can run Captain Greenskin. That sounds like a bit of a pipe dream in my head and as I'm saying it, but it's something that exists. It's a possibility. It's a little bit of a way to give a Pirate Warrior some steam, but it probably won't make that cut. I don't know. I like this card, even if it doesn't fit into any deck that exists right now. And we have another 3-mana weapon for Hunter this time. It's a 3-mana 1/3 Desert Spear. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 Locust with Rush. So that's a 1/1 Beast with Rush. So is that any good? If you look at it this in a way, it's not comparable to Muster for Battle, but it's similar to Muster for Battle, where it is a 3-mana spell. Well, this isn't a spell. It's a 3-mana card that will give you a 1-attack weapon with high durability that will summon about 3 1/1 minions. The thing is with Muster for Battle is that they're immediate, they don't have Rush, But they are Silverhand recruits, which has synergy, but Hunter has beast synergy, but this is a beast. These have rush. Also, Muster for Battle is one of the strongest cards in the game has ever printed. That's a thing to consider. But that's partially to do with the fact that you're given 3 minions right away. I don't know. I think it's okay, honestly. Alright, we have the Warlock Legendary Minion. Regardless of what the card says, which we already can see right here on the screen, but regardless of what it says, lore-wise, I love that this is the Warlock card. No one remembers. Takan is the character that you play as in the Dalaran heist, and he had relevance to here, where we are in Uldum, and I think that's really cool that he is here. So anyway, the card, 5 mana, 4/4 battle cry for the rest of the game. Your lackeys are 4/4. That is, if you can get a lot of lackeys in Warlock, that's nutso. That's sicko. That's sicko mode, dude. That's all kind of crazy. The problem is that there's not really any good way to get lackeys right now in Warlock. They have to come up with a better way to get lackeys consistently. Like, you can get 2 off of the one that they have from last expansion, and you get, so that's 4 from 1 card if you run 2 copies, and then there's Evil Cable Rat, so you can get like 6. Is it worth it? Have this 5 mana 4/4 battle cry make like 6 generated minions somewhere in your deck, 4/4s that are 1 mana? Probably not. But if Warlock can manage a way, like Plot Twist or something dumb, to just infinitely generate a bunch of lackeys, this is sick. This is a wonderful card. I love the design. It is neato. One more thing before I move on to the last card that I'm looking at today. There was a new lackey announced alongside Takan. That is Titanic Lackey. That's a battle cry. Give a friendly minion +2 health and taunt. 1/1, obviously. Pretty sure I already said that. I don't know. I don't care. Anyway, that's a good minion. That's about on par with the other lackeys, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good, especially in like tempo-based decks. This being put in the pool, I think that's just fine, if you ask me. And the last card, not nearly as interesting as Takan, is Vile Fiend, a 2 mana 2/2 demon with lifesteal. That's okay. It's just a lifesteal minion. It's probably not going to see any like distinctive play in just decks because it's just a 2/2 for 2, and lifesteal's like just okay. So I don't know. No, probably not. And that is all for this one. Thank you for watching all 20-some minutes of this video for whatever reason that you did that. If you enjoyed it, which is why I assume you've made it this far, please consider hitting the subscriber button. If you did that, it would make me smile. Anyway, have a good day.